You sent the last message. You checked your phone. You checked it again and again. And then it hit you. They're not coming back. No explanation, no goodbye, just silence. If you've ever been ghosted, you know that particular kind of pain. And today, we're going to talk about why it hurts so deeply. And more importantly, what psychology tells us is actually going on inside the mind of the person who disappeared. Because here's the truth. Ghosting is one of the most psychologically fascinating and painful experiences in modern relationships. And understanding it might just change how you see yourself and how you heal. Let's start with your brain. When you get ghosted, you are not being dramatic. You are not overreacting. What you are experiencing is real physical pain. Research by neuroscientist Naomi Eisenberger found that the brain processes social exclusion and rejection in the exact same neural regions it uses to process physical injury. The same area that lights up when you break your arm lights up when someone vanishes from your life without a word. So when people say being ghosted feels like a punch to the gut, they are not speaking metaphorically. They are describing a neurological event. Now, why does silence hurt even more than a clear rejection? Because your brain hates uncertainty. When someone breaks up with you clearly, your mind can begin to process it. But when someone just disappears, your brain goes into overdrive trying to fill the void. You replay every conversation, every text, every moment. You search for the clue you must have missed. This loop of rumination, this obsessive mental retracing, is your mind desperately trying to make sense of information it was never given. Communication researchers have described this as leaving people with unanswered questions in a constant loop of wondering what happened, a mental state that offers no relief. And that loop is exhausting. It erodes your self-worth. It plants seeds of self-doubt that can grow long after the person is gone. So now the big question, why do people actually ghost? Let's talk psychology. The number one reason is avoidance. At its core, ghosting is not cruelty for cruelty's sake. It is an avoidance strategy. In psychology, avoidance behavior refers to the way humans sidestep situations that feel uncomfortable or overwhelming. And breaking up, rejecting someone, having a hard conversation, these are genuinely uncomfortable. So some people rationalize, if I don't respond, I won't have to deal with the fallout. If I disappear, I won't have to hear their reaction. I won't have to feel guilty in real time. Ghosting, from the ghoster's internal world, is the path of least resistance. But here's where it gets deeper. It's not just about conflict avoidance in the moment. Research reveals that how someone attaches to others, their attachment style, plays a major role in whether they are likely to ghost. People with what psychologists call an avoidant attachment style learned very early in life that emotional closeness feels threatening rather than safe. In their formative years, getting close to someone was associated with discomfort, feeling responsible for another person's emotions, or losing their own sense of stability. So as adults, when relationships get complex or emotionally demanding, withdrawal becomes their default setting. It is not a conscious choice to harm you. It is a deeply wired survival response. Disappearing feels safer to them than facing the vulnerability of a real conversation. Then there is a second psychological profile that research consistently links to ghosting: the dark triad. Studies have found that people high in narcissism, Machiavellianism, and psychopathy are significantly more likely to ghost. Why? Because ghosting requires a certain level of emotional detachment, a reduced ability or willingness to consider the suffering of the person left behind. People with these traits tend to prioritize their own convenience above your need for closure. And what is more convenient than simply stopping? No awkward confrontation, no guilt trip to manage, no messy emotions to navigate, just silence. But, and this is important, not every person who has ever ghosted someone is a narcissist or emotionally broken. Research is more nuanced than that. When researchers conducted in-depth interviews with ghosters, they found that nearly every single one of them could articulate exactly why they ghosted. They had thought about it. Some felt genuinely overwhelmed by the thought of having a hard conversation and believed they lacked the communication skills to do it well. Others had tried to end things before and felt trapped by someone who wouldn't accept their answer. And here's something that might surprise you. Some people ghost because they think they are protecting you. They believe that disappearing spares you from a painful direct rejection. A 2024 study actually found that people who are ghosted dramatically underestimate how much the person who ghosted them actually cared about their feelings. There is a real disconnect between what ghosters think they are doing and how it lands on the other side. There's also a modern layer to all of this. The digital world has made ghosting dramatically easier. Dating apps are literally designed with features that allow you to delete a match, block a profile, and start fresh with a new face in seconds. Psychologists note that having a constant stream of alternative connections available online promotes ghosting without guilt, because the ghoster's attention simply shifts to the next option and the previous connection fades into the background. Or some people even hold what researchers call destiny beliefs, the idea that relationships are either meant to be or they aren't, making it easier to justify walking away without explanation. If it was fated, it would have worked. If it didn't work, it wasn't worth explaining. And what about the person who ghosted? Do they feel okay about it? Maybe in the short term. Research shows that the majority of ghosters report feeling relief immediately after, but guilt often follows. Many ghosters privately know that what they did was wrong, especially because studies consistently show that when the roles are reversed, ghosters themselves say being ghosted is unacceptable. There is a moral dissonance at work. They justify it when they do it, but condemn it when it happens to them. So what does all of this mean for you? The person left in the silence? First, this is not about your worth. Ghosting says almost nothing accurate about your value as a person, and almost everything about the other person's capacity for emotional courage. The thoughts that creep in. Was I not enough? Did I do something wrong? Was I too much? Are your wounded mind filling gaps with self-blame? But those thoughts are not facts. They are the noise created by the absence of information you deserved. Second, you are allowed to grieve this. Even short relationships, even situationships, even someone you talk to for a few weeks, your nervous system built a small expectation, a small hope. And when that disappears without explanation, there is a real loss to process. Give yourself that space. Third, seek the closure from within, not from them. Waiting for the person who ghosted you to come back and explain is one of the most painful waiting games you can play. They may never give you the explanation your mind desperately wants. The work of healing is learning to close that loop yourself. reminding your brain that their silence was their limitation, not your verdict. And if you have ever been the ghoster, it is worth asking yourself honestly, what was I afraid of? Because the answer to that question usually points to something worth understanding about yourself, not as a judgment, but as a doorway to growing into the kind of communicator you actually want to be. Ghosting is a symptom of the emotional shortcuts our culture has allowed us to take. But real connection requires the courage to show up, even when it's uncomfortable, even when you're ending something, even when it's hard. If this video helped you make sense of something you've been carrying, please share it with someone who needs it. And if you want to go deeper into relationship psychology, attachment styles, and how to build emotional resilience, subscribe and hit the bell. We cover this every week, and the next video might be exactly what you need. Thank you for being here.